Welcome back to Paranormal Unveiling, where you can get your weekly fix for your paranormal addiction. I'm your host, psychic medium and paranormal investigator, Josh. Now sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the show. And if you enjoy the music for today's intro, it's a little something I created. I call it Fade. Hey guys, welcome back to Paranormal Unveiling, your weekly spot to get your fix for your paranormal addiction. This week, we have got some very awesome guests, some guests that I've been interested in talking to on the show for a while. We have Kyle and Des from Utah Paranormal. Hello, guys. How are y'all?
Good, brother.
Good. How are you?
How you doing?
I'm hanging in there fair to middling, I reckon. But so before we get started, I want to let everybody have a chance to know where can we find you guys on social media so we can go follow along with your content, which I want to get into, talking about some of that. But where can we find you before we get started?
Pretty much everywhere where there's social media. You can find us at Utah Paranormal on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and then our YouTube is at Haunted Utah.
Okay, great. So some of the questions I want to ask you, how did you guys kind of get into the paranormal field? Now we've talked before and, we've known each other a while, but just for the listeners, what was it that happened that made you want to go do investigations?
It's a pretty long answer. There's really no short way of putting it. So I guess Des and we've known each other since junior high.
Right.
And both of us had paranormal experiences our entire lives. Like I can't speak for everybody, but like some investigators, obviously
Right.
they've had experiences, throughout their life or at a later age or at an earlier age. But for me, I was pretty young. I was 3 or 4 years old when I first had my first experience.
Oh, wow.
But it was pretty constant, just nonstop, relentless events occurring as a child, as a teenager. And then I think Des was having similar things.
Yeah, pretty much my whole life. But there was one specific incident that made me decide that I was gonna investigate.
Okay.
And that was, I can't remember how old I was. I was in junior high, so somewhere around that
All right.
age. And my dad had said that, excuse me, he had said that he'd seen a ghost and he drew a picture of her on this piece of paper.
Oh, wow.
And the next day I was in the shower and we had like a little mirror in there, but it was in a separate part. There was a door that separated the vanity from the shower.
Okay.
And when I got out, like I said, I was home alone, but the picture that my dad had drawn was etched on the mirror, like in the condensation. Yeah, so that's like the specific event that I was like, I really just I want some more answers. I want to see what's over there. So
right. Absolutely.
Kickstarted that.
That's a trip. I've heard of it happening before where people, you're in the shower, it fogs up and whatnot, and they see something in the mirror, but I don't think I've ever come across somebody who's actually had that experience. That's pretty neat.
The exact same picture. It was crazy.
And things she's not telling you is those buildings is a lot of there was a lot of activity, and it's kind of weird because
That's true. It was very haunted.
yeah, but it was like the projects. like of our city.
Yeah, it was the housing project.
And I had a friend who lived in the same building as her, but we hadn't met each other yet. Like this was right at the beginning of junior high.
Mhm.
And I was having weird experiences like when I would sleep over at my friend's house. So years later, when I found out she had lived there, I was like, dude, that place is super, super haunted. She's
Right.
like, oh, yeah, I know. And she told me that story. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not at all surprised by that.
Right.
To
Yeah.
add to that, we know the person now who lives in the exact same
How-
unit that I lived in.
The
Really?
exact unit. Yeah.
Exact same.
A
Now,
mutual friend, yeah.
have they had some experiences similar to what you experienced?
It's hard to say.
It's hard to it's hard to say because the guy is not all there.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I wouldn't doubt it.
Respectfully.
Right. I
I don't
understand.
mean that like in a disrespectful way, but
Right.
you kind of have to take what he says with a grain of salt.
I understand. I understand.
But given my experiences there and Des's experiences there, I wouldn't be surprised because he has said like, oh yeah, I've got a ghost on my phone, but he was using like some of those real cheesy apps from years ago where it would like AI would like put a ghost in the image.
Right. Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Not true investigation tool.
Right. Exactly.
Entertainment purposes only. So let me ask you guys. Now I know a little bit about you, Kyle. And I have my own opinion of why you always have experiences is because you draw them in. I don't know how far you want to talk about some of your abilities that you seem to garner to grow in. But I also want to ask Des, is there something about you that you're somewhat sensitive to spiritual energy?
I think so. I can feel obviously when there's energies in our home, different things like that. I can people's feelings. If somebody texts me or calls me, like I'll always a few minutes before start thinking about. So small things like that happen.
Right.
But really nothing like what Kyle gets. Like he gets the brunt end of the spirits that are bombarding.
Right. And I've seen it like I said for the listeners, I've known Kyle and Des for a while. Back before you were Utah Paranormal, in fact.
Yeah, when it was Creative Sparks.
Right.
Creative Ghost Photography.
Right. Yeah.
That's when I first got on TikTok.
So I remember, actually being on a live with you, and I picked up on your dad that was around you, but I don't know, I don't want to ask you anything that you're not comfortable with answering as far as that goes, but do you feel like maybe the reason why you have continuously through your life had experiences is because of those abilities? They're coming to you because they know you can feel them.
Yeah, absolutely believe that.
He's a spirit beacon.
It's just like my entire life, honestly, up until a few years ago, I always just kind of viewed it as a curse.
Mm-hmm.
And people and Des would say, yeah, it's not really a curse, it's more of a gift. And I'm like, not the shit I go through. This ain't no gift, man. Like
it doesn't feel like that, huh?
Right. And there is times where I feel like it has some sort of properties of a gift sense, but there's other times where it's just so relentless and nonstop to where it's just so draining on me, emotionally, physically, mentally. And but when we first got together and started dating back in 2006, 2007, it just, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just because we both have that type of energy that attaches
Vibration.
to us, and yeah, that vibration that we put out and what comes back to us. But it just like exponentially
Right.
like
Amplified. Yeah.
amplified things. And a lot of people don't know this, but Des actually started doing paranormal investigations um, on her own with a local team back in like 2009. And
Awesome.
she was like, "You should come do it with us." And I'm like, "No, like we have enough of that in our house.
I
Like
have
Want
enough.
no part of it.
I'm good. Like I already deal with this stuff, too frequent as it is." And then, slowly over time, she's like, "I think if you start listening to them and being more open, it'll help with not feeling so overwhelmed all the time."
Right.
Right.
If he's able to kind of just focus a little bit more and receive the information in a more like
Direct.
understandable way, so it's not just like jumbled,
Right.
all kinds of whatever's happening.
And
Now,
it was
have you-
causing severe panic, anxiety, depression, trying to block it out. And I was
Yeah.
like, I can't do this. Like something's got to give.
Right. And
So I
that's
just
one
went
thing.
full.
That's one thing I wanted to talk to you about, because I remember in the beginning of us kind of meeting, that you were still having some pretty severe panic attacks because of this.
Yeah. So I mean, I still get panic attacks from time to time, but not like it was. There was just so much, and not just paranormal, but there was so much that happened in such a short amount of time.
And the house that we were in, like when it all started, was crazy. And
Yeah.
not just haunted like this one is, but the energy
It was just negative.
Yeah, it was negative.
Right.
There was something that happened there.
Yeah, it was a very negative place that we were at before we built our house here.
And it was a rented home, so many
God
people
knows
have
what's
come and
yeah.
gone. Yeah.
Dude, we
Right.
found a dead dog
Oh,
buried 6 inches down in the backyard 2 years after we had lived there. Our dogs found it in the backyard.
really?
And then so they dug it up and they were fighting each other for it. And I went and took the dog up to the canyon and gave it a proper burial. Anyway, the next day, we're all sitting downstairs in the living room, and it sounded like somebody dropped a car on the floor in the master bedroom. It shook the house. It was so loud. And we're just like, what in the hell? I thought my 2,000-pound safe like somehow had fallen over or something.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
there was nothing.
Nothing out of place.
That's crazy.
Not a thing.
Yeah, I was
That's
just
crazy.
like, what in the hell? But I started getting just severe like night terrors and sleep. Like I've always had sleep issues since I was a kid.
Yeah.
But like just in that house, those 3 years we were there, the sleep paralysis and night terrors, it was just relentless, like non-stop.
And I've told Kyle this before. It even got so bad, like it was to the point I was considering calling somebody for help, not on, on like the spiritual kind of level. Like somebody needs to come in and
Cleanse this place.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Understandable. Now, have you?
It's better.
Right. Right. Now, have you tried to develop, like, understand those? I hate calling it gifts for me personally, because it doesn't always feel like a gift. Sometimes it's not good, but
right.
Those
The
abilities.
abilities.
yeah, the ability. Have you tried to develop those abilities so you understand better or can control that more? Or
Yeah, so I think whether I like it or not, as I get older, it's just becoming more natural, more clear. But I was just talking.
Accepted it more.
Right. I definitely accepted it more. But
right.
Des and I actually were just talking the other day about how I need to do more hyper focus meditation to kind of channel that,
Right.
those abilities and
Yeah.
allow it to come through, because there is times where I get weird premonitions
Mhm.
that I don't understand. There's times where I get just real bad, like that intuition, like something is wrong,
Right.
something bad is going to happen, but I, don't know what that is. Um, like for example, just recently, I had a dream of a plane crashing, and the next morning, or the morning that I woke up from having that dream, I was talking with Ray about it, and he said, "Dude, a plane crashed in some country. I can't remember the
I
country
want to
now.
say Syria, but I don't know if that's right.
It wasn't Syria. It was another country.
Started with an S.
I don't know, but they and he said, "Well, describe your dream to me, but don't Google anything." And I said, "Okay." So I described what I could remember, which was pretty vivid.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, the plane took off from the ground and it crashed, within 20 seconds of takeoff. And I told him exactly how I seen it in my dream, how it looked from my perspective in my dream, and how it was turning sideways and going almost upside down, and then it crashed into a hill. And it was identical, like identical. Every single bit of that was real. And when Ray sent me the video of the plane crashing, because somebody got a video of it on their phone, I about lost it, man. I was like,
Right.
what? I looked at Des. I said, this is exactly what I just described.
Wow. Wow.
Bizarre. So just stuff like
Absolutely.
that irritates me.
Absolutely. That is, I mean, thankfully I don't dream.
Yeah,
Just
feel
for
lucky
whatever
about that.
reason. I'm lucky that way. But not so lucky in other things, but in the fact of dreaming, I don't dream. Now, Des, let me ask you, have you developed or tried to develop any of your abilities, your intuitions, you just kind of naturally go with it?
Yeah, I just kind of naturally let it flow. I've never really, I don't know. I guess I never really had the urge to kind of try and work on it.
She
You
does
don't,
meditate
you
daily.
don't
Yeah,
want to
I
get to
do a
his
lot of-
point.
Well, yeah, maybe not. Maybe that is it.
Right.
She does meditate though, like
I
daily.
do a lot of meditation.
So do I. So do I. I try to do at least 15 or 20 minutes. Sometimes it's a little bit longer. Sometimes, you just don't have time to do it, but I try to do it every day. And I find it helps, Kyle. Doing that meditation, 20, 30 minutes
Mhm.
actually helps me to focus on how to, manage the things that are coming in, and, stopping when I want something, I'll ask for it. When I don't want you to be bombarding me, I can kind of shut that down. And the meditation really has helped doing that. I don't know if you're currently doing meditation, but it maybe does, maybe right. It might help you.
Yeah, for sure.
It's helpful to have somebody else tell him that too.
Yeah.
It's just, it really, to be honest with you, when I first kind of started this journey, it's been going my whole life, but it got a lot more when I was turned into my 40s, right? And somebody else told me that, and meditation helps you to kind of understand what's happening. You can connect with things in a safe place, and you can kind of control that experience.
Yeah.
And that helps you to control that when you're not meditating too.
Yeah, the things that I do focus on in meditation, it 1000% helps with, but it's not
Right. It really does.
that psychic ability.
Might just something to try,
Right, yeah.
I'm not saying you do this or do that, because you know how you feel about different stuff, but
Right. I definitely.
I thought I was going crazy. Like, I literally told my wife, "You're gonna have to check me into a mental institution because I am going nuts."
Yeah, I was pretty close to. I don't know if I can say it on here, but I was pretty close to taking my life, because I was
Right.
just at my wit's end. I was like, I can't fucking do this anymore.
You
Sorry.
get tired of hearing it.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, how do your abilities present? Do you hear? Do you see? Is it
All the above.
I was gonna say
feeling? Okay, so you're like me, where you'll hear something, you'll see images, see figures with your own eyes.
Yeah, full apparitions. I've
Oh, really?
described family members of deaths that I've never even met that have appeared to me.
So full sight.
Yeah. Um,
Thank God I don't have full sight. Like it just sometimes.
yeah, it's not like what people are probably thinking, where it's like I don't see every dead person that's ever lived. It's not like
Right.
that.
Yeah, he
Right.
doesn't see
It's
like all the spirits.
it's just those that want to
Present themselves.
yeah, present themselves.
Right. You're right.
And luckily 90% of the time it's been like family or friends
Right.
or like drifters that are respectful of my space. But then there's that 10% that it's almost bad enough to where I'm like, well, screw the other 90% of the time because this 10% of the time is terrible.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I completely understand. I call them transient spirits, where they kind of come in, do their damage, and go away.
Right. Yeah. I have a object here that I got from Evermore Paranormal,
Mm-hmm.
little figurine. And the spirit or entity that's attached to it decided she was going to scream at Des and I at 5 a.m. And I thought it was only me hearing it because I was having like a severe panic attack. I had to come out and I sat on the couch and I was just sitting out here trying to like calm down. And so Des woke up and she came out and sat down with me. And then we both just hear this blood curdling scream, like a banshee scream.
So
Wow.
loud.
Wow.
And very loud. And like I'll never forget how it sounded. But I was like, okay, you heard that, right? And she's like, yeah, I definitely heard that. So I'm like, all right, I gotta get out of here for a minute. So I went to go walk outside to get some air.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, it's like 5 degrees outside. It was like in January.
Right.
And so that's how much I needed to get the hell out of my house. Anyway, so I get up to go outside and I just stop dead in my tracks because what I see is an older woman, no eyes, mouth open, stringy hair, and just staring at me. And it wasn't so much as what I was seeing because it's almost like I'm used to it by now, but it's just how she made me feel
Right.
There
that
was also some
freaked me out.
initials.
Yeah, I kept hearing
F.
FA, FA or something like that. FH or something.
FAO. There was
FAO or something.
3 or 4
FAOH.
letters.
Oh,
Yeah,
fallen
yes.
angels of
I was gonna
heaven.
say
Yep.
Ray had some weird.
Yeah, Ray was like, "Oh, that means
FAOH.
fallen angels of heaven or something." I'm not a religious person. I don't necessarily believe in heaven and hell.
Same.
But something kept putting this acronym or these letters in my head while I was trying to sleep. And I'm like, just leave me alone. Like, Christ, I'm trying to go to bed. It's 4 a.m.
Right.
And I just kept getting FAOH, FAOH, FAOH. And it was a man's voice that kept saying it. I'm just like, will you please just stop already? So that's what started the panic attack. And then we, like I said, we came out. I was on the couch. I went to get up, and that's when I seen the lady standing there. And I don't know how long I stood there for, but I couldn't move. I was completely paralyzed. Like I just was frozen.
Right.
Like can't say I've never felt that way, but it was so unexpected that I just didn't know.
Right.
Like my body was just like short circuiting. I was just like,
Yeah, I was
Reboot.
trying to hold him up and help him. So I literally screamed at the spirit like it was a real life person.
well, shit, it was
And-
really
Right.
there.
Yeah.
It was like, right. I mean, she was there for sure.
And I couldn't go to sleep until I came back inside. And I'm terrible at drawing, but I was like, get me a a notepad and a pencil,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to try to draw what I saw. And it was the worst drawing you'd ever see in your life. But so I ended up falling asleep right after I finished drawing it. And
You
then
were still drawing it. I kept looking over and you were like trying to scribble the hair, but falling asleep. I was like, finally.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it helps to get it out. So
right. Well, so later that day I took it out and I burned the paper.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God I haven't seen or heard from that thing since,
Or felt
Right.
that.
or felt the energy. Yeah.
I think a lot of times we forget how much control and power we have over spirit, because we have natural energy in a physical form, which is stronger than spirit energy. I mean,
Right.
doing something like that really, it's like placing an intention of, look, I don't need you here doing that to me.
Right.
And it really, you have power that I don't think a lot of people quite understand. Sometimes it feels like you don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and
Trust
times
me.
like that when you're scared and you're not quite
Right.
You just
putting
feel
that forward.
yeah.
Right.
You just feel powerless.
Right. Yeah. And I've been in positions like that where you like, what the hell do I do? Like, how do I get rid of this? How do I make this stop? It's almost like a conscious decision for me of, okay, look, I got to step back and go, look, you cannot fucking be here.
Right.
Yep, that's what
Right.
you gotta do is
Sorry, F-bomb.
that boundary there and hold yourself to it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's sometimes that's hard to do, to step back and go, wait a minute. No.
Absolutely.
Because in the moment you're freaked out. Like
Yeah,
that's
and you're just reacting.
fear. Yeah. That's fear sometimes,
Adrenaline, fear.
So, we've seen you do a lot of investigations. A lot of your investigations are at your house, which my personal opinion is the things that are at your house is because of what abilities you guys have. And I've seen some pretty remarkable stuff. Is there I like to ask this question because, everybody wants to hear the spooky stuff, right? The scary stuff.
Right.
But I want to ask this question to both of you. Have you had an experience that really touched your heart? That
Oh yeah. Yeah.
made you feel good? And can you maybe elaborate on what that experience was?
Yeah. If you want to go first.
I think my most touching spirit experience
Encounter.
might not be one of Kyle's, like it might be on the worst side for him. But it was when we were at the Clown Motel and we did the Estes, we were doing an Estes session and a spirit had come through for quite a while. I feel like I was communicating, or rather Kyle was, directly with this spirit, and just told us a lot about who he was before and what he liked and family members' names. And I asked him if he would like me to leave a rose for his mom, and he thanked me for it, and I left him a rose. And like stuff like that is just, it was
Right.
touched me. It was
And
good.
get you in the feels. Yeah.
Yeah, get you right in the feels.
But to tie that in with the house, we think he followed us back for a little while.
Yeah.
Because his name kept coming through on portal box sessions.
Yeah,
Of course. They're very attracted to you guys.
Yeah.
I think you have a big problem with people following you back.
We definitely do.
Or coming in and visiting, at least. Not necessarily.
They don't
They're
always
never
stay.
missing, though.
Right. And they don't always stay. The
Right.
only one that's actually stayed, and I don't ever think she'll ever go anywhere, I'm sure she'll follow me until I die, is Megan. But I think we were meant to cross paths with Megan. I feel like she was meant to be some sort of spirit guide or something. I don't know.
Right. And you do a lot of communications in your house. I've seen with your lives and stuff like that, where Megan comes through a lot.
And she's very I don't know the word for it.
Interactive?
Well, she's very intelligent and powerful. And like just asking her, Megan, sometimes I can't even get the whole sentence out and she'll turn shit on.
Right.
if I were to take every EVP or voice that's came through the spirit box in relation to Megan, they all sound the exact same. It's
Yeah.
always the
Right.
same.
Same
Yeah.
voice tone, same cadence. Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
Like not just with the voice recorder, like you said, but also with like portal box with the spirit box.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same tone, whether it's through a spirit box or if we're doing it like an EVP recording with our voice
And
recorders.
even full sentences, like the inflection, it's always the same.
And
It's crazy.
I don't know what I did, but at one point I pissed her off somehow. She went AWOL for a while, and then she came through finally and made it clear that she was mad at me for something. And I apologized. Like I'll have to find the video and send it to you, but it's remarkable. Like, I don't know. It was like it was clear as day. You could tell that she had accepted my apology.
Yeah.
Right.
It was so like, I don't know.
Now is Megan is she the one that kind of got you in the feels? Like you feel?
I love Megan, honestly, but that wasn't the same experience.
No, Megan did follow us home though from Virginia City.
Right. I remember the story about the door being open or something like that.
Yeah. She followed us home, and she had passed. So we didn't know right away that she had followed us home, but we had figured it out within a few weeks of being back, and we got enough information from her, finding out her first and last name. We looked her up, and found out she had passed away in a car accident outside of Reno, but she lived in Virginia City. 2 weeks before we got there is when she was in that car accident. So I think we were probably the first people that she had came into
which is why
contact with.
Clung to you, was because it was her death had been
so
new, and she was still probably kind of maybe confused, with an accident. Maybe they're not quite sure what had happened. So I think that's why she clung and came back with us.
Right.
And she knows she's welcome to
Right. Stay. She always behaves, what I mean? Like every time I've seen you, I haven't seen every interaction, obviously, but all the times where I've seen you interact with Megan, it always seems like she's behaving, like she's very respectful towards you guys and stuff. So
yeah, she definitely respects our privacy, our boundaries.
Right.
And it's pretty funny because a lot of the people that will tune in just to watch some of the sessions we do from home, they tune in just for her. Like they're almost
they'll come in hi Megan.
Yeah, like they're friends. It's like saying it out loud sounds so ridiculous, but it's like people have formed this relationship or a bond,
friendship. Yeah,
this this spirit that is in our home and it has attached herself to us. So it's, I don't know.
Right. And, I always tell people, because I have a few that, you guys probably already know that, the original house that was here before the fire was 172 years old. A lot of stuff has happened in 172 years. I mean, this place was before the Civil War.
Right.
And we had a few that were attached to the house that were always respectful. They were always nice. And, you form a bond, a relationship with them because, something happens and you kind of feel who it is.
Right.
We have an older, we call her grandma, that always liked to be in the kitchen, and you kind of form a relationship. Something will happen and you'd be like, hey grandma, how you doing? You fixing something for breakfast? Or, we've seen all kinds of stuff, kitchen cabinets open and close in front of you. And we've had some really weird situations where we were doing food prep and had to go to the store, came back, and our vegetables were cut up.
Oh, damn.
I need that kind of ghost.
So she's always getting into where our baking sheets were, that cabinet door always was opening, but you kind of form a relationship with them. You understand that they're there. You don't mind them being there. It's almost like another family member hanging out with you.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like having a roommate that just respects your space, but also hangs out when they want to.
Right. Well, let me ask you another question, and I'll get in a little bit of the technical side. If you guys haven't seen the videos that Utah Paranormal um, has done, especially on your YouTube channel, building the portal boxes, because in our field things get very expensive, and people charge
An arm and a leg.
some pretty exorbitant prices for stuff that you can do that is simple to do, with a little bit of know-how,
Guidance.
just being able to put something together. You've done a couple of videos with building a portal box. Now, you have one video that is a plug-in version, right, where you have to have a wall outlet, and then you
Right.
built another one that is a portable version that runs off 9 volts.
Uh-huh.
I actually built that. I went and watched your video.
I was gonna say, did you follow the tutorial?
I had built a couple of them before. The one that I had, I lost in the fire. It was destroyed. So I knew how they worked. I knew how to put them together, but my version was always you had to have a plug-in, and I didn't really delve into how to make an actual portable portal box.
Right.
So when you guys made that video, I actually ordered the exact same
Parts.
amplifier. I had some of the cords and stuff and the pedals to do it that weren't damaged.
Right.
But I built your box. So now
Yeah.
I'm wanting to tune that in. So can you elaborate on a little bit about that? How did you just decide to kind of make that video? What prompted you to make that video?
Well, like you said, there a lot of how do I put this nicely? There's a lot of people, I'm not saying not companies, but just people.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously I just want to preface with by saying companies pay taxes and have overhead costs, and of course they need to make some money to continue for their business to survive.
Right.
People, on the other hand, have zero overhead costs and just want to build stuff to flip it for 3 times the price of what they paid to build it. And it literally takes, how long did it take you to put yours together? 5 minutes?
10 at
10
tops.
Yeah.
Tops 10.
Do you feel like that's worth charging somebody $300 above what it cost you for 10 minutes of your time?
Me personally, no.
No, me neither.
$300 a 10-minute session.
And I honestly, I could have been like, you know what? I'm going to build these and I'm going to charge people $400, $500 and I'll sell the shit out of them. But I'm just not that type of person. I'm like, I would rather teach somebody how to do something.
Right.
And they could have the satisfaction or gratification of knowing they built it, and that they, by building it themselves, were able to form a more deeper understanding of the way it works and forming that bond. Because as you know, like as investigators, we form these strange bonds with our equipment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I just think that, and I'm also a believer that some stuff, like especially energy, can attach itself to objects.
Mhm.
And so it's like these people building these and selling them, what's going on in their house?
Right.
What are they involved in? Is that energy attaching itself and going with wherever these portal boxes or whatever are being sold to? So
Very key point there. Very key.
Yeah, they're all being tested and stuff before they're sent out, I'm sure. So
yeah,
it's not just the energy that's put into it while being built, but
right.
while
Right.
being tested and used.
And I had people reach out like, hey, how much are your portal boxes? And I said, I don't know, however much it's going to cost you to order the stuff online and put it together yourself. And they're like, oh, you don't sell them? I said, no, I just made the video showing you how to do it. And letting you kind of get the inner workings of how it works, why does it work, and the best results or the best settings for you and what works for you.
Right. Right.
So I don't know. I guess part of me did it out of spite in a way, but
Was
mainly
it-
I do because I do enjoy teaching people.
I was gonna say, at the end of the day, Kyle being able to share any kind of knowledge that can help somebody in any kind of way is worth more than any monetary gain.
Right. 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 And myself, I've done videos on, a lot of people take their, SB7s and they want to do the antenna modifications and stuff like that. So I've done videos like that. So look, it's not as complicated as you think. You know what I mean? It's super
Right.
simple. Here's step by step how you do it. So I've done videos on how to modify your antenna for your SB7. How do you build a mini REM pod? And it's really super simple. Now I've taken it, and I haven't shared this yet, but I've taken it to another level, like with the mini REMs of, putting detachable antennas on, putting your LEDs in. It's a little different process than most people are doing now.
Right.
And I feel like it's a better product, but it's not super hard if you have a little bit of,
Knowledge.
mechanical ability. It's I mean, just a little iota of it, you could do this too. And these things are expensive.
Right.
Even a mini REM pod, you're going to spend 40-50 bucks for, when
Yeah.
you can do it for about $15.
Right.
Every
Yeah.
way you can help somebody save that money and have a good piece of equipment that works.
Right. And put the money they save, they could use it to go investigate somewhere.
Right. This is not a cheap field, especially if you're going to, public places that cost you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars.
Right.
Every way you can save is a good way.
Yeah.
Save
I'm
money
really
well
happy
good.
I'm really happy you put that video up, because I really did. I had been looking to build another one, and I didn't realize that they had those amplifiers, those guitar amplifiers that were portable, that ran off 9 volts.
Yeah.
So when you showed that and you put all the descriptions, down there of what you got, I was like, holy crap, I got to get one of these. And for me, I had a lot of the stuff, so it was cheaper for me. But, overall, if you don't have an SB7, what are you into this portal box for? 150 bucks or so?
Yeah. If
Yeah,
if
that can
that
be the most expensive piece if need be.
to replicate the exact setup that I built in the video, if you need to buy an SB7 with it, you're right around $150, $180, depending on where you're at and how much you pay in taxes and all that. But
Right.
you buy that same one from somebody online, they're charging you $500,
Right.
$100. So it's like, I don't know. I would just rather people learn their equipment for one,
Right.
and know how it works and why it works, because that's a big part of what we do, is understanding how the equipment works, why is it doing what it's doing, and what does it take for something to manipulate it to get it to react.
Yeah, and it's good information to know how those things work. So, you catch a piece of evidence, you need to be able to explain, well, is this a radio station coming through?
Right.
You need to know how these things work so you can explain, okay, well, this may not be good evidence. This is good evidence. Like one thing I do tell people when they're using SB7s is to just let it scan. Don't ask any questions. Just turn it on, let it scan. Because depending on the area you're in, you might have, even with the antenna mod like I have, which it doesn't pick up hardly anything, you might have a strong enough signal where if you watch those scanning numbers, those frequencies going through, you might see a one spot where you're getting this really weird noise or something's still coming through. You need to be able to go, okay, well, if I'm running this machine, this portal box, and I'm looking at this and it is in that frequency, then maybe it's not paranormal.
Right.
Because
and the same
than the baselines.
The same can be said too. I'll kind of touch further on that. outside of portal boxes and SB7s and such. The same can be said for EMF readings. Is where you're at, you could have a power box or a junction or a transformer that puts out a little burst every 90 seconds.
Right.
And you don't know it unless you're getting your baseline readings when you show up somewhere. Because a lot of people, you could literally watch at on a stopwatch and see like 90 seconds. You know what I mean? Every 90 seconds. And it's tripping and spiking up. And it's like, well, if it's in a pattern like that, there's something not paranormal causing those spikes of energy. So it's just understanding the equipment all around and your environment, like you said.
Right. And doing those baselines. So let me ask you, what is your guys' favorite piece of equipment to use when you're investigating?
Spirit box. SB7. Well, the voice recorder honestly is my very favorite because all the EVPs and voices that I've heard in listening to it.
Right.
But besides that, for other people to hear, for the most part,
are you saying so? Like she said, the answer can go two ways. If it's investigations for ourselves,
right?
If it's just us and we're not trying to show other people any evidence, or if we're not live streaming, for me, it's just listening with my own ears. And then outside of that, obviously the voice recorder. And I really like the tripwire.
I'm seeing a lot more of those nowadays. A lot more.
Yeah, the tripwire is a good piece of equipment.
I like it because it's not easy to manipulate.
Right.
So when it is getting used, it's usually in conjunction with some other kind of piece of equipment that's also, giving readings and you're getting evidence from.
Right. Yeah. For me, the communication part, whether it's for an audience or for myself, the SB7s, the voice recorders, when I can hear their voice, their cadence, their tone, that for me is, as exciting as catching a full body apparition. You know what I mean?
I tell Kyle all the time, it doesn't matter how many times you hear a voice or see something, like you always get the same feeling every time.
Right. They're getting to tell their story through you or to you.
Right.
Either way. It's, and what some people that aren't super hardcore into the field or might not know is spirits don't have vocal cords.
Right.
Like, they don't have vocal cords. So to produce those tones, to produce the depth of the voice it's just so
profound.
Yeah, it's just profound. And it's just so crazy that I don't know, you're able to hear the differences in from one person to the next.
Yes.
Difference in tone. Whether it be
man or excited. Right. You can tell, we have a lot of apps and different things that we use that, Ovulus, that sort of thing. But to actually hear the voice and the tone, man or woman, where it's voice specific rather than informational, is really big for me because I want to hear them. I not that I don't, I already hear them anyways a lot of times.
But it's an auditorial thing.
Yeah,
it's a stimulating effect.
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
Hearing it in your mind, through your. It's hard to explain for people that don't hear, because you have disembodied voices, obviously.
Right.
You also get voices that aren't spoken. They're just
internal.
Yeah, it's just heard. And then you get, like, through a voice recorder, you're able to hear those vocal tones that stimulate your hearing, which causes that endorphin.
Stimulates your other senses.
Right. So you have different levels of stimulation, I guess.
Right.
When you're getting when you're reciprocating these responses.
Right. A lot of times for me, it's I like to catch those EVPs, not just for my own, because I love to hear them. But I already hear a lot of what they're saying anyways. So that's kind of confirmation for me.
Right.
It also lets me show other people of, look, here's what's possible.
I have a
Right.
question for both of you guys.
Okay.
When you're hearing voices internally, introspectively, is it different than when you're getting voices like through the spirit box or hearing them out loud? Is it like a different
No.
kind of dialogue?
No.
Uh-uh.
No.
It's a little more clearer for me, because usually, a device has its limitations. Their energy has limitations with manipulating that device. It takes much more energy for them to manipulate that device,
Right.
to have their voice come through. Or this is at least my opinion, my experience. I don't claim to know all be all, but I believe that it's easier for them to speak with you internally.
Right.
It doesn't take so much energy. So I tend to hear more than what's coming out of that device. It's much more clear for me. It may be different for Kyle, but
No, it's pretty similar to how you explained it. It's more, for me, it's more like, it's like a different version. If I had to like try to explain it if I had to put it in a layman's way, it's more so of like when you're listening to your intuition.
right,
It's more, but it's obviously, I know it's not my own intuition just speaking,
right,
because
yeah,
it's a different voice than my own,
right,
than if I was just thinking
It's
in
not
my
your
head.
inner dialogue.
Right. It's not my inner dialogue.
Right.
It's from an external source, but it's processed the same way as inner dialogue
right, yeah.
with a different voice. Like we sound fucking schizophrenic when we
It
say it
makes
out
sense. I was
loud.
just wondering if it was, I mean, the way you explained it makes perfect sense to me. And that's
Right.
what I was wondering, is
Yeah, I
more
I
powerful.
right. I think it's just easier for them to communicate through that, because it doesn't take, they have to garner a certain amount of energy to interact with things, but to interact with the physical body is much less stressful and energy
them.
consumption for them, and
Not so much for us.
Which is why y'all
yeah,
get picked on the most, because they know that they can just come through.
right. They know that we'll hear them,
Mhm.
it also depends on the spirit. I know that when I hear my guide sounds like my voice with an Irish accent.
I love that.
So in the beginning, it was really hard for me to understand if this was my inner dialogue and I was just making this up, or if this was somebody talking to me. But I've
Right.
come to find out that my guide is my gatekeeper. He's an Irishman that likes to cuss. Was a merchant marine. What I've done with meditations to connect with him better. So when I hear him, when I get information and it's my voice, but it sounds like an Irishman talking, I know that that's my guide, Alan. When it's somebody else, it's usually a different tone. It's not my voice. Although sometimes I have had experiences where, grandma has been talking to me. I'm doing a reading for somebody, and I hear them in their accent or their tone, but it's my voice.
Right.
But I've also heard where it's their voice as well. So that's where a lot of the confusion of, is it my inner dialogue or is this spirit, comes
Right.
from, I think, because sometimes it just sounds like your own voice, but in words that you wouldn't necessarily speak,
Which is a good piece of information, I think, for people who are kind of skeptic and don't really like to listen to themselves,
Right. I had one reading where
it could be message from your team.
right, yeah, and sometimes it's hard unless you're doing the meditations and connecting and understanding and spending time to understand that. It can get
gotta
confusing.
spend some time with yourself to sort all of that out, for sure.
Right. I did do one reading one time where this voice that was coming through was the voice of the person. It wasn't my voice, but it sounded like they were talking through a radio. And normally, if I hear spirit voice and it sounds kind of like, almost like it's over a radio, it's clear, but you still have that kind of crackly to it. is usually a sign that they've crossed over for me. But I had one instance where this person was a dispatcher. They were an EMS dispatcher. So they talked on the radio a lot, and that's how they communicated to me. That's what they did, you know.
Right.
So it's so weird when things like that happen.
Yeah, this isn't similar. It's kind of similar to that, but we were doing a porta box session one night, and Des asked a question, but halfway through her question, her own voice finished the second half of the question through the portal box.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
did you see that video?
So I have seen, but well, here's my theory: is sometimes we can project our own energy.
it was so
Yeah.
weird, man. I've never witnessed or heard anything like it. Like, it was almost like we were tapping into another dimension or something.
I mean, I
Mhm.
do believe people can throw their energy. I mean, I
Right.
know.
And the reason why I think that way is because there was one other time, some friends of mine who are many miles apart, were, you know, 1,000 miles apart. One was asking questions and trying to get answers over a portal box in a different area. And something that they were thinking actually came through on an SB7. And she's like, wait a minute, that's the question I was going to ask. And it sounded like her asking through the SB7. And I was like, I don't know, maybe you can project your own energy to these things, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. Like, Brandon and I and Des one night did a dual portal box session,
Right. I
and
remember
we were
that.
asking, hey Megan, can you go to Brandon's house? And for those listening, Brandon, Real Ghost Hunter One, shout out to him. Go follow him on TikTok.
Yeah.
Low key plug there.
Awesome guy. Yeah. We've had him on the show.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah, he's
right.
been on the show.
One night we were doing that, and I asked Megan, I said, Megan, can you go over to Brandon's house and say our name through his portal box?
I remember that.
And within 3 seconds, sure as shit, Megan's voice, hi Kyle and Des,
Right. On his portal box.
his portal box. And then shortly after it said, hey Utah. And I said, wait, did that just say hey Utah? And it said, I did. Hey Utah. And I was
Right.
like, you're seriously calling me by my TikTok handle right now?
Right.
Whoever you are, because it was like a male, it was a male that
Yeah,
it was a male voice,
what's
so it
Brandon's
wasn't even
spirit's name?
Megan.
Adam?
But
Yeah.
it's funny
Yeah.
because Adam will talk to me too through Brandon's portal box. Like, when I'll join his live,
Didn't he? What do you say about your beard? That it was fluffy? or
yeah, he
something?
calls me Fluffy.
Fluffy.
He calls me Fluffy Adam, which
Adam
is
is a character.
Brandon's, yeah,
Gave him a nickname.
Brandon's residential spirit, you know.
Right. You know what's funny is somebody else that I know has a doll from Brandon. And that spirit goes back and forth as well. I don't think they've done a session where they, like you guys did, but even though that doll isn't in Brandon's space, it was still speaking over his portal box one time when I was watching him do a live. And
Yep.
it, you know, it made him think of that spirit that had been there, but he had given the doll to somebody else. But so it's weird how it's crazy how fast they can do it too. It's like they're here
Yeah.
and they're there.
And that's why I believe that it's only the power of, just by the power of thought, they're
Mhm.
able to go and be anywhere at any point in time,
Right.
Well, we're only bound by
space and time.
space and
Right.
time. You know, they
Right.
are. It's just limitless.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's no
they're not-
construct for
they're not
them.
bound by-
Right. Yeah.
The only thing they're bound by really is the energy to do so. But
Right. I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. Well, let me ask you, you know, you've been to quite a few places. I know you just did a live, and I was at work, so I only caught a little bit of it, but where you're you believe your dad came through.
Yeah, we were at the cemetery.
Can I ask you guys what's, independently, because your answer may not be the same, but what is a location that you've been to that has really just kind of knocked your socks off and you enjoyed that location the most out of all the places you've been? What's been your favorite?
I can already tell you the two places we're both thinking of is going to be the same.
Okay.
So I'll say the first one and she can say the second one because I can guarantee they're the same two places.
Right.
So the first place for Des that she enjoyed the most is Thomas House and Hotel in Boiling Springs in Kentucky or Tennessee.
Oh, nice.
Love it there.
And so what would mine be?
Yours? I don't know your favorite.
Not my favorite, the most intense and
The most
impactful.
intense and impactful would be Merker Cemetery.
Well, yeah, Merker. That doesn't really count. That place is traumatic.
Your childhood experience. There's so many of them.
Right. Yeah.
I was gonna say the house I grew up in.
Yeah, what happened when you were growing up?
Well, when we went and investigated the house, that was definitely in the top places we've investigated.
Now, your mom still lives in your childhood home?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're
does.
still there. So, yeah, I don't like that house. It doesn't like me either.
Yeah.
A lot of bad shit happened there spiritually.
Right. I understand. Okay, well, let me ask you, let's get into some controversial stuff because I know that you can be sometimes a little controversial.
Favorite.
People
Just a little
can take
bit.
it or
Just a
people
little
can
bit.
take it or leave it. Some people get upset, some people agree. But I'm going to start with this topic because for me is one of those things where drives me nuts. But how do you feel about orbs?
99.9% of the time it's bullshit and they're dust.
Right.
I will never take any picture or piece of evidence with an orb and call it like paranormal. I can't
Right.
say for sure that it's not, but I won't put it out there as like this is for sure something paranormal.
Right.
In all the years, I've caught, I can't say one, but in all the years, I have caught one that no doubt is a legitimate orb, and there's a face of Des's uncle in it.
That's why I said not to say it's not, because I do believe that sometimes an orb can be a spirit, but
Right.
it's something that, every
It's
time.
generally not.
Right. Yeah. Generally it's not.
Here's the crazy part with this orb. There was actually two of them, and it was the day we put our dog down 2 feet away. The vet came over and euthanized her, and the night it was actually while we were gone taking her to the crematorium to drop her off. So our house is pretty rigged with cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want one of our cameras in the living room while
that was happening,
while she was being euthanized.
Right.
So I took it into our bedroom and I just set it on the dresser. Didn't even think about it. Just set it there. And while we were gone, our other dog, Zoe, walks into frame. She goes into our room, and you can see her like following something, like intentionally. She's like with intent, like following something in there. And then you see an orb just kind of like come down from the ceiling, touches Des's pillow, and then shoots up, disappears. Oh, wow. But then you see it like strobing, two of them, like strobing and going across the TV screen that's in there. It just kind of like cuts in front of the TV and then it just disappears into the floor. When I paused that, because it was so prominent that it set the motion detection off on the camera.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when I paused it months later, we were actually doing a bus ghost tour when I did this. I don't know what prompted me to look at this picture. I was probably showing somebody,
Mhm.
you know, and but then I was looking at it and I'm like, well, I wonder what it looks like magnified by 20. So I paused it, I magnified it, and sure as shit, it's Des's Uncle Larry. It's his face.
It is his face.
And
Wow.
Karma, our dog, it honestly, if there's anybody that I feel like would have shown up to take her, it would have been him.
Right.
So
Wow.
I feel like he was here, like, you know, taking her wherever the hell they went. But
Right.
I actually have the picture. I don't know, somewhere.
Yeah, he gave me away at my wedding. My dad passed away the year before Kyle and I got together, so they
Mhm.
never really formed any type of relationship.
Right.
But he and my Uncle Larry were super
friends.
close.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think an actual orb is? I'm sure you've heard Brandon say, and I've come to think the same as Brandon, that it's just a easy way for them to manifest to move.
Mm-hmm.
What's your idea of what an orb is, or what's the purpose of it?
That's what I think. I think it's just an easier way for them to manifest. I think it's hard for a ghost to fully manifest,
Right.
in full form. So I think that's just an easier way for them to show themselves. I think they're trying to show themselves when you see an actual orb, just not in full body apparition form.
Yeah, they don't have the full energy to do it.
Right.
And Brendan was telling me a story where he actually observed an orb turn into a full manifestation and back again.
Jeez.
During our podcast, when he was on the show, he was explaining to, and it's a private residential, so he couldn't, he can't show that stuff because it's private. But
Well, we actually, the one we caught in our driveway was a ball of energy that formed
That's
into
true,
a full body
yeah.
apparition, and then it turned back into a little ball of light, and then
Yeah.
disappeared.
Yeah, that's
just an
crazy.
apparatus of movement, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a little ball that gets bigger, forms into a body. You can see the head and like the
Right.
back form of the body, the shoulders and everything. Not necessarily the legs or anything, but
Right.
the torso part.
Right.
Yeah, something that you can definitely pick out as a person figure.
Right.
Me personally, I think it's a mixture of both energy and consciousness, emotions, feelings, just the rawest form of all the emotions that we had experienced throughout
Right.
life.
Just
Because
a little
energy
ball of
doesn't
energy.
stop, it doesn't die. Energy
Right.
continues. Like it doesn't begin nor does it end.
Right. It doesn't die with your physical form
Right.
or energy.
Right. Cannot be created nor destroyed.
Right.
If you
And
follow
that's not a
quantum
demon in
physics.
our house. That's Malik snoring.
Yeah, he's loud. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to find this picture for those that are watching this video.
Well, while you're looking for that, let me ask you, how do you feel about divination tools, things like Ouija boards or dowsing rods, that sort of thing? Do you have a lot of faith in them?
Dowsing rods, no. If I
Same
needed
way.
to find some water, yeah, definitely.
Right.
I think dowsing rods are bullshit, but that's just my personal opinion. A Ouija board, I'm sure Des would agree. It's no different than all the other equipment we use. It's
Right.
just a modern day electrical version.
I feel like stuff like that can just be manipulated too easily, you know.
Right.
Even
See
if you're
that.
not intentionally
Right.
manipulating it, it can still be done.
Right. See, and I feel kind of the same way, because I've seen people that, if you watch closely, you can see minute manipulations with the hand.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've done experiments where you lock those things in place and you put your hands on them where you can't manipulate them, and they've done nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But then I've seen people where I can't see any micro manipulations. I think that there are times where those tools do work, but the reason why I throw all of it out is because it's so easily faked.
Right.
And even it's hard to tell micro manipulations. I've watched people have blatant hand manipulations with those rods to, hey, $5 a question.
Right.
Yes or no?
$3
Yeah, I'm getting a yes. I'm getting a no. I'm getting a yes. I'm getting a no. And like it's blatant. You see their hands doing this, so because it's so easily manipulated, I throw it all out. But I have had some instances where I believe it's been truthful. So I think in some cases, in the right hands, it works, but overall, it's not a great tool.
Right. Not a great tool for sure.
Not very
Something to
scientific.
play around with, but if you just want
Right. And I did watch a guy who has been drilling wells for 30 years. That's how he found where to drill wells, because obviously he
That's
can't
what
sit
they're
there and drill 10 wells because it costs money.
yeah.
But he found water. 99% of the time he found water, and he was using dowsing rods.
Yeah, it's the copper that is attracted to the ions in the water.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't find this picture.
I think it's on
Oh
my
wait, it's
phone.
right here. I'm looking right at Larry's face. The hell am I doing? So it might not look like much. So this is Larry and I on our wedding day, mine and Dessa's wedding day. So you
Okay.
can see his face.
Oh, look at you without the beard.
Yeah, baby face.
Little baby face.
So, but this is what the orb looked like. Hold on, so this is what it looks like really zoomed in, but let me get a screen. Let me screenshot this real quick so I can get this other junk out of the way so you can really see it.
And for those of that you are listening to this on the podcast, I implore you to check out the YouTube channel, Paranormal Science Investigators, PSI.
I don't know if
Oh wow,
there's
yeah, you can
reflection.
see eyes, nose, mouth, cheeks.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that legit looks like his face.
And that's zoomed in
Let me see.
quite a lot.
Right.
I mean, a little speck, blown
Right.
way up. But I mean, it was definitely just the feeling I get from it. I can tell it's
It's
him.
Right. Yeah.
And just, I don't know, the whole day, how everything went. It just makes sense.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, I think that on occasion you do come across something that is legitimately an orb. Just typically it's not. It's a bug. It's
Right.
if people you do a lot of photography. You guys are very well versed in what can happen on through a camera lens. So you understand that something you may not see with your eyes, if there's moisture in the air that you don't necessarily pick up on, when you flash that camera on it, now those are just glowing, blaring
Right.
orbs. Or if you get dust,
Yeah,
so
even spider webs,
Yeah, anything really.
like
right,
microscopic spider webs will show up
right,
a certain type of way on a lens of a camera if it's with in focal range and close enough to the camera without blurring it out but still being far enough away to get
right.
view of it.
Now there's been a time or two where I think I've gotten your opinion on something because I wasn't sure, right? And I trust your guys's opinion on what it was because you guys do have that photography background, so you understand what can and happen and the way you've seen things show up, that are perfectly normal and understandable and explainable.
Right.
So when I have an orb picture, I want to send it to Kyle and Des because not only will they be honest, but they have the experience to tell because they've had these experiences and they know how the equipment works. And
Yeah,
so,
you can tell like what's a malfunction of a camera or a lens flare or a speck of dust on one of the diaphragms inside of the lens, like the tiniest speck of dust inside of one of the diaphragms in a camera lens will show up as exponentially bigger because
right,
it's being magnified so many times through those
right.
diaphragms.
Mhm.
Right. It's almost like it glares out, it expands.
Right. Yeah, it like blows it out, or there's a word for it and I'm drawing a blank, but blows out, I guess works.
Right.
for lack
Well, let
of-
me ask you guys, how do you feel about these paranormal shows that we see on TV? Are there any that you like? Do you find them to just be entertainment purposes only?
Yes, it's definitely entertainment purposes only. Hollywood has ruined legitimate paranormal research. Uh, But with that said, I would love to investigate with um, the guys from TAPS or
Mhm. Jason Hawes and them,
yeah,
Steve Concows.
yep. I would love to investigate with those guys for sure. But as far as do I believe what's being shown to us on those shows? Not these days.
Right. Yeah.
For
We have watched like all the paranormal shows, but it's not something we do religiously. I wouldn't say that we
Right.
necessarily have a favorite.
right. Shit, I like the Osbournes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to
Yeah, that's a
believe.
good one.
Right. I
What-
actually liked his show, Jack Osborne show with Katrina Weidman.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Portals
that
to
was
Hell.
pretty good
Portals to
too.
Hell.
Yeah.
Wasn't a bad show. I mean, obviously you guys know, we spend 6, 8, 10, 12 hours at a location. A lot of times there's nothing happening.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of time we spend and you're not getting a damn thing. So I understand they have to compress a lot of time down into, their show period. So it seems like a
It's
lot more is
nonstop.
happening, and it's not really conducive to actual investigation. So, as an investigator, I think we understand that part, but as far as truth in evidence,
Right.
um, there's a couple of shows that I like. I do like Kindred Spirits. I don't know how you guys feel about them, and it's mostly because they do the Estes method.
Mhm. I don't know. I haven't watched a whole lot
Because I
of
think we've
Kindred
only
Spirits.
watched a few episodes of that.
Right.
It's just
Really not enough to form an opinion.
another thing that kind of ruined things for me. Watching other groups is TikTok. TikTok has ruined
Yes.
there's so many because I have seen it never crossed my mind to ever feel the need or desire to fake evidence or to
Right.
stage anything.
There's so much real out there. Yeah.
Right. What's the
Right.
point? You're spending more, I feel like you're spending more energy trying to
To
fake
it.
something than you would have just organically gotten legitimate
Right.
evidence. But I'm not going to name any names of any pages or groups or channels or
Right.
whatever. But
Right.
um, after seeing how some of these people operate and conduct themselves and conduct their investigations,
Mhm.
it made the desire to watch other groups kind of even lower. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just kind of ruined it for me. Now, I'm not saying everybody's like that because obviously, you're legitimate. We have our mutual friends that are legitimate, and
Mhm.
I love and I'll always support you guys. But 9 times out of 10, it's all the stuff we're shown is just is bullshit.
Right.
Like
Well,
it
there's
really
people who have
is.
a true passion for it and know that sometimes you're not going to get any kind of evidence.
Right.
It's going to be there talking to yourself the whole time.
Right. Yeah. I've had locations where, somebody said, "Oh my God, this place is haunted." And I went there and I got nothing.
That's what happened when we went to Waverly.
Waverly, yeah,
Right.
it was very underwhelming as far as the
Really.
evidence goes.
The feeling of dread and sadness was profound, but
It's definitely a somber place.
Right.
The energy and the feeling is somber, but there wasn't like
But the-
crazy activity.
right,
Right.
the evidence or lack thereof, it was I give it like a 2.
Right. Yeah.
Then I mean we
It
did
was
get some stuff. we did get some evidence from Waverly, but
Honestly, just the experience of being there and getting to see the building and traveling and everything was better than
Right, right.
investigation.
I think you guys are probably a little bit like me, where the history of a location, like the
Absolutely.
true history of a location, is just as interesting as capturing evidence at the location as well. Like knowing why something would even happen is kind of interesting
Right.
to start it all off.
Aspects of investigating is just learning the history of the buildings and being able to explore and, see all of that.
and then getting validations of stuff coming through that validates the history just makes
Right,
it
right. Now I will say, not to bag on Waverly or anything, because I've known honest investigators that have went there and have caught some really cool stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just to put it out there, you can have an off night.
Yeah, absolutely.
The night you were there just may not have been
Yeah,
energetically
these
right.
spirits aren't show monkeys. They
Right.
don't
I was
Right.
gonna
do shit. They don't do stuff on demand. So it's like you get what you get.
And I think places can be over investigated to a point where the
Absolutely.
spirit just is kind of exhausted. Like they don't want to communicate with everybody coming
Right,
in.
right.
And I think
Yeah,
that's
I just want to make that point, because we're not trying to pick on Waverly, because
oh, definitely
Right, no,
not.
no,
great
it's
stuff.
a
We
great
loved,
place.
yeah,
Yeah.
we loved being there.
And if you have the opportunity, go.
Yeah, I
for
definitely, now that they've gotten their issues out of the way, that's one of the places I really want to get to, only for one specific reason. The shadow figure that's there is my interest. But
Two people's experience is ever the same.
Right.
Right, yeah,
Experience.
right, yeah. There's a lot of great locations. There's locations where I think it's maybe overstated.
A money grab.
Oh,
Right, yeah. And I've seen lots of investigators go to the same place and they didn't get anything, on any night they've been there, and they've been there multiple times, multiple investigators. I just think that it's a good place that seems creepy and isn't necessarily haunted. You may have some creepy stuff happen, but it's not really haunted, like, a good place to catch evidence. But let me ask you, since you guys have abilities, especially you, Kyle, how do you feel about having, I know we see a lot more mediums on paranormal teams now. How do you feel about having a medium on there? Are they overused? Are they used improperly? Would you have?
I think it depends on the team, but I definitely think mediums are a necessity for investigations.
Mhm.
For sure. As far, like I said, as far as like over usage, I guess it would just depend on who we're talking about, or the situation.
Right.
How do you overuse a tool? Like, how do you overuse a good tool?
Well, sometimes you'll see mediums on teams that the team relies on them for their information, and there's not really that history that they validate. There's not a lot of validation. It's just like, oh, well, our medium says that there's a guy hanging from the ceiling. Well, how do we validate that? And
Right.
I understand, as a medium, sometimes there's things that you may not get to validate, or there's things that are not wrote into the history that support what we're picking up, but that doesn't mean that what we picked up didn't actually happen. It just never really got into the history of it. But overusing, I mean, like, just taking every word with zero confirmation.
Gotcha. No, I definitely think there needs to be a balance of what a medium brings in to an investigation and what's being gathered as far as evidence to validate those claims, especially if they're outlandish claims, like something that's undeniable proof that they're claiming.
Yeah, people can put too much trust or maybe confidence in somebody who says they're a medium,
Right.
just because they do.
Right.
And honestly, like, Josh, and like what and Des knows, I don't tell a whole lot of people that
Right. You don't.
I just, I don't know. I've just never, I don't tell people that I possess those capabilities, or
Right.
when somebody asks me, hey, who's a good medium that I can reach out to, and I'm just like, oh, here's a list of people,
Right. People that I believe are real legit.
right.
Right.
And it's I don't know, I just never felt like, because I'm more interested in investigating and gathering evidence and communicating. um I guess I'm answering my own, kind of goes hand in hand when you possess those abilities, because you're kind of
Right.
self-validating. But I'm also not like brought in by teams to read a place, because I don't like claim that or put that out there for
Right. And I completely agree with you. I understand what you're saying. Because there's been times where I've been asked to be on a case for my abilities. And I go in there using my abilities and giving them, kind of helping them pinpoint of where they might find confirmation of what I'm saying.
right.
Because I know, even as a medium, we have to prove ourselves.
Yeah.
It's just kind of goes hand in hand with the job. But there's also been times where I just want to be the investigator.
Right.
Right.
I might use my abilities to kind of hone in on where to look or where I feel something is. When I was at the South Pittsburgh Hospital with POV, I walked up and down halls, and when I got a feeling of something might be around, I set up my tripod, turn on the camera, let it go. Caught a shadow figure, a couple of them. So sometimes I just want to be the investigator, and then sometimes I use my abilities because that's what I'm asked to do.
Right.
Not that I don't use my abilities when I investigate, but I don't want to rely just on that.
Right. Yeah, I definitely understand and agree with you there.
Now,
It takes too much out of you to do
right,
both. It really does.
it can take a toll. It can take a toll, and for people like me who, I know in the beginning you guys probably saw me. I was doing readings for people, grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, that sort of stuff. I moved away from that because I found it less fulfilling as working with the things that scare people, the darker stuff.
Right.
I get more fulfillment from helping somebody because I know what I can do with the darker figures or entities, as opposed to, your grandma loves you kind of thing. When somebody's about to leave their house because they're at their wits end, I want to go there and deal with that instead.
Right.
But
Like a direct line of help.
right, yeah, it's just more fulfilling for me. And like I said, you guys have seen me do readings where, you know, your grandma's coming through, your grandpa's coming through. It's
Don't downplay your ability. That is amazing for some people, just having the chance to like hear, what their loved ones might be saying or coming through. Like that can mean a lot to somebody.
Oh, absolutely. And I believe there's a place for the light workers, right? And there's plenty of them out there that I feel are legit and do a great job. It's just not there's enough of them that I can do my own thing. Yeah, it's I can do it. I just prefer to work with the stuff that really scares people, the dark stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And and a lot of the time the darker stuff is just misunderstandings.
Mhm.
I agree. I agree.
Not even necessarily negative. It might just be frustrations that are built up in that space.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
That's the case most of the time when people think spirit or energy is negative, is that it's just frustrated.
Right.
Right. I've been to places where, people say, I've got a demon in here.
Right.
It might seem like I mean, like they're ornery. They've done some pretty, mean stuff.
Horrific shit. Yeah.
But, you go there and you're like, this isn't a demon. This is just a jerk.
Yeah. This is just somebody that's pissed off.
Or this is somebody that needs help and doesn't know any other way of getting your attention to help them because they need help
Right.
than to do things that scare the crap out of you.
Yeah. Or it might be the only thing they know how
Right.
to
Right.
do.
Or maybe sometimes they're trying so hard to communicate or to make themselves known and they're not able to, but when they finally do get that burst of energy that allows it, it's so strong that
It just comes across.
it is scary,
Right. And I've had one contact me before I was actually sleeping, and I don't think the intent was malicious, right? I think that they didn't know how to get my attention, even though
Right.
that I can hear and see, they didn't know how to make me hear and see that I would understand. So I was actually hit and my nose started bleeding. I woke up, I felt like somebody just bopped me in the face. I woke up, blood was running down my nose. And what I got out of that was I didn't know any other way to get you to see that I'm here. You know what I mean? So I'm so like, it was almost like they were apologizing. Like I didn't mean to do that, but I had to do that.
Well, sorry, you weren't listening.
Yeah. All right. There's Moloch. That's the snoring Frenchie.
There he is.
So,
Yeah.
we've been talking for quite a while. So there's a couple questions that I'd like to ask you. If you're a new investigator, you're a person who is interested in investigating, what would you suggest somebody that says, hey, look, I want to be a serious investigator. I want to get into this. I want to understand the experiences I've had. What would be what would you tell them on how to get into this field properly?
I would tell them to seek out their local. Hold on, let me put him down. Seek out a local group, a team, go on a few investigations with other people
Mhm.
that are reputable and honest, and then come back after a few investigations. And if they still had the desire to do it,
Right.
then get more elaborate on the best ways of going about doing it. Honestly, I don't understand why anybody would intentionally want to do it. Like, I really don't. And it sounds
I kind of knew this.
critical, but if you don't deal with this stuff naturally, like you're able to live a life free of it, just live a normal life. Like, don't
Right.
I don't want to sound like I'm preaching. That's not what I'm trying to do, but
It's not all rainbows and unicorns sometimes.
no, not at all. And if you can avoid it, avoid it. But if you can't, you got a wild hair and you just got to do it.
Well, investigating isn't the same for people who don't have those kind of abilities, I don't think.
Right. True. True.
But it can open it can open doors
That's
that
the key.
Yeah, for
right.
sure.
It can open those doors to somebody's consciousness that weren't always there, or that were always there but not always open.
Right. That's
Right.
always my first piece of advice is like, just think long term. Are you okay with anything that might come of it?
Be prepared for the absolute worst case scenario.
Right. Knowledge, I think, is very right. I think knowledge is a very key piece of that, to understand you may come across, 90, like I tell people, 95% of what you're going to come across isn't looking to bother you, hurt you.
Right.
You're okay with.
It's just like a passerby on the street.
Right. But what if you come in contact with that 5% that's not so nice? Do you know how to deal with that? Have you learned?
Chances are you probably will at some point.
Right. You do this long enough and you will, guaranteed.
Yeah.
But I think the knowledge of how to, it can be. It can be. And those of us that have had experiences of the sort will tell you it's not necessarily something you want to go through, because it
scars you for life.
Yes, it does.
It absolutely does. And you'll never forget the feeling you felt during the time. Especially in my case, I won't go into full detail of what happened, but something happened to me when I was 14 spiritually with a negative energy, and it affected me for almost 4 years every day. Like it was a continuous oppression for long term. She's just letting the dog go out.
No, okay. Yeah, it's a traumatic experience that almost makes you reevaluate what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, well, and like I said, at the time, I was still trying to understand, like, what the hell is all this? Like, I know this is really happening. I know what I'm seeing is real. I know that my siblings, I had four siblings, have four siblings, and at the time they all saw what I was going through, and they all had their own little experiences based off of collateral damage of what was happening to me.
Right.
But I don't know, it's just yeah,
you have to really want to be in this field, and I think knowledge is key in this. And I think what you said, getting with a reputable team that doesn't believe that everything's paranormal,
right? Not everything
is. You know what I mean? If you hear a sound, that doesn't mean that a spirit is knocking on something. You know what I mean? Like, get with a reputable team.
It's definitely our responsibilities as knowledgeable, responsible investigators to debunk before we say something's paranormal.
Yep.
Right. Here's the thing. I'm a medium and an investigator, and I still have skepticism.
Oh yeah, you have
too.
to. You have to. You absolutely have to have some form of skepticism. If not, you're gonna be on edge all the time.
Yeah, you have to keep that.
Everything.
You have to maintain a level of clarity somewhat, and not automatically go to that place of, oh, what was that? Oh, that was paranormal, but I'm not going to bother, debunking it.
Right.
So, I don't know. I like I was saying, I would just tell them to go on a few group investigations with reputable people, honest people, because there are people out there that are not honest, and they're not,
unfortunately,
good-hearted people, and they're just out there to
use
looking for a quick come up. And I don't know, it's kind of like throwing yourself into a swamp looking for a cool little frog while battling off a bunch of alligators is really the best way
to
put it. I don't know.
That's a good analogy.
I don't know how else to put it. Like, I feel like there's more scammers out there than there is legitimacy.
I agree. And it's unfortunate. It makes, I see these videos that you can clearly debunk, or how they've faked their evidence, and they have hundreds of thousands of views, millions of views, 100,000 likes. I post an actual shadow figure and it's crickets.
Right.
Yeah,
that's the story of my life, man.
Well, people, I think for the most part, just want to be entertained. I think the people who are looking for actual evidence, that audience is
marginal
small compared to people who just, like the flashy, bangy stuff.
Right. The people that want the legit evidence is a very marginal audience, and it's mainly people like us that look at other investigators' good evidence. You know what I mean? So it's a very small part of the population in our community that actually is looking for that legitimacy. The rest
when I started investigating, my team was the only other people I knew that would even take it seriously. I got looked at like crazy.
Right.
Because
it used to be taboo to be a paranormal investigator.
It's come
People
along.
Like, you do what?
Yeah.
You freak, you weirdo. What?
Yeah.
You do what?
Mm.
No,
Yeah,
I don't believe any of that. And then you show them legitimate proof, and they're like, "Yeah, how'd you doctor that up?"
right. Yeah.
You know.
Because of what people have put out there, is so blatantly fake that it makes legitimate people like us harder to.
Thanks, Hollywood.
Right.
Cheers to you.
It's unfortunate. I agree. Now, not to say you and I have talked about this before too, on some roundtables. Not to say that there isn't some value to entertainment only type stuff. It draws people in.
Yeah, draws curiosity.
To actually, hopefully, them wanting to find truthful, legitimate people to find. So I think it becomes more mainstream through those entertainment type stuff. It makes our job more mainstream, where 20 years ago, the things people would say to me, I don't hear that as much now.
Right. Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is good.
Damn, sir.
I still get it.
Yeah,
People are
we all do.
I get into these silly arguments online, and then people see the check mark next to my name. So they're like, well, what the hell is this guy doing that he has a blue check mark?
Right.
And they're like, oh yeah, that's real good coming from a ghost hunter. Somebody's hunting ghosts.
Somebody
Like
believes in ghosts.
like it's some sort of insult to me. Like,
right.
yeah, you're not insulting me by calling me a ghost hunter, bro.
Right.
If anything, I'm more annoyed by the term you used than anything else. Like, I don't hunt ghosts.
Right.
I'm a paranormal researcher, investigator. I know.
Right. Here's the thing I always tell people too, especially the critics. And it's okay to be a critic. I understand completely.
Oh, I'm a critic.
Everybody has something they're critical of.
Yeah.
Right. But I always tell people, look, it's not my job to change your mind. I'm just showing you what I found. You can take it or leave it. Right. If you think it's BS, it's BS.
That's me. I won't argue with people online because
Right.
I'm not going to change their mind. I'm not going to change their opinion.
Yeah,
I'll just let it go.
That's not me.
Yeah, that's not Kyle at all.
It's not my job to convince people, and I know I've seen you take it a little more.
I can't.
Personally, but
I just can't help it. Sometimes I just.
Right. It gets irritating. I agree. It gets irritating, but for the most part, I just look. If you don't believe it, then that's fine. That's cool. Whatever. Which is
I'll be liking comments. Not replying.
Right. I'll like that crappy comment just as much as I'll, hit the like on a genuine comment. Like, cool, man. You don't think it's real? Fine. But that's also, in our community, I think, like we're honest to each other.
Yeah.
You show something, like you posted a video, what was it, today or yesterday, with the shadow figure.
Oh yeah, in the apartment.
I thought it was a great catch. The first one you shot there, I was like, I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we're honest to each other, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you, say, oh, you're the best. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna give you my opinion. Well, I'm not 100% sure on that first one, but that second one, that shit is legit. The first one is so hard for me to see. I think if I went back on my computer screen or something like that and ran it, but sitting there on my phone, it's hard. But that second one,
very
how do you explain that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That looks legitimate to me, like somebody's head poking in there looking at you.
And especially like if you've seen the layout of how that place is, there's nothing that could have caused those shadows where they were at.
Right. And that's part of the problem too, is when you present evidence, not everybody knows, who was around, where you were at, how it's laid out. So it's hard.
Yeah.
But as seasoned investigators, we can kind of look at something and go, even if we don't know the layout and who is around, go, okay, you were on the second floor. How's somebody outside casting a shadow on the second floor, poking in through a door? You know what I mean? Like that looks legitimate to me. And like I told you, that. Oh, go ahead.
I was just say it's so dark that you can see like his shadow and everything else, but that
Right,
one is
right,
just
right.
so darker. It's a much
Right.
more
It's something
prominent.
solid
else.
mass.
It's
Yeah.
something else. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. I find it a great catch. And if you guys haven't went to TikTok and followed Utah Paranormal, I highly recommend that you do, because especially your lives are very, for lack of a better term, entertaining, because you guys are getting some really great stuff. Like I have a hard time watching paranormal.
Yeah.
Lives. TikTok has kind of ruined that for me, but there still are a few people where when I watch them, I know what they're getting. They're either actively trying to debunk it, or what they're presenting is truthful. They're not over here knocking on stuff where you can't see them. You know, you can't see the top of the REM pod antenna in the video frame, and somebody's playing with that. You know, I know that I'm not going to get that with like when you guys investigate. So there's a few people that I do enjoy watching. Overall, it's hard for me to watch, but a lot of them. But
Just to kind of, I don't want to stay too long on this, but just to kind of add to what was going on, what makes that so reliable of evidence is right before those shadows appeared, the stuff that was coming through the spirit box and the ovulus were all matching up. And then I asked right before that, I said, can you go over where the water bottle is? Because they kept saying water.
mm-hmm.
Like, are you thirsty? Here, I'll take this water bottle that I have in my hand and I'll set it down over there for you. And I asked him, can you go over there by the water bottle and do something to the water bottle or do something in that area? That's where the shadows appeared.
Wow.
That's the piece of wood, the burnt piece of wood got thrown. That I don't think you've seen that video yet, because I haven't put it up yet.
Yeah.
But the people in the live, there was close to 400 people watching at the time.
Right. Yeah, you were during the day and I was at work, so I couldn't
Yeah.
I couldn't get to you guys, but
Yeah, well, so for those who don't know, I mean, this apartment building, the top half of it burned up a couple years ago.
right.
3 people died in the fire. And yesterday when I was there, a piece of wood that's the size of a $50 coin
Mm-hmm.
just came out of nowhere, 20 feet in front of me, right
Wow.
next to the water bottles.
Wow.
Even if so hypothetically, for the skeptics, let's just say that I threw this piece of wood. There's no way with my hands, I'm sorry, I don't mean that in a negative way. I got real bad hands from arthritis.
Right.
There's no way with my hands and with how I was standing, because you could see my shadow projecting on the floor. If I would have moved at all, you would have seen movement from me.
Right.
There's absolutely no way I could have got that piece of wood that close to that water bottle.
Well, and they would have seen it.
They would have seen it come.
The trajectory of it. Yeah.
It fell straight down.
It either came from the ceiling area or from the room adjacent.
Right. Right.
And I'll put the video up tonight, but I can't explain it. I welcome anybody to debunk it. And if you can tell me something solid enough that makes sense, I will absolutely say, yeah, you're probably right. That's probably a logical explanation.
Right. That's what I like about you.
I couldn't find anything. I even stopped what I was doing. I said, hold on, we got to figure out, because
he said, let's investigate, Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, because I was digging through my pockets at the time because I was trying to find a pin that goes on my motorcycle jacket. I was trying to find a pin to leave there as an offering.
Okay.
And I was digging through my pockets when it happened, so I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on. And I just heard it. Like, I heard something hit the ground like 20 feet in front of me. And I'm like, wait a minute, did something just move or get thrown?
Right.
And everybody in the chat is like, oh shit, there's something just flew up there,
Right.
up the water bottle. And I'm like, what? And I kind of looked up there and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't remember seeing that. And so I took the camera, tripod, walked up there, and I'm like, that's definitely what it is. So when I got home, I went and watched the replay of the live to see if maybe that piece of wood was there the whole time.
Mhm.
No, it wasn't. It definitely got thrown.
Yeah, you
Wow.
can see it come from midair.
Yeah, it skips across the ground like with
Wow.
force. It wasn't just like
Hits and
it didn't just
bounces.
fall off the wall and like a
Right.
crumbling piece of wood. It was thrown with force.
Well, that
Right.
doorway, I mean, I know nobody's ever seen the inside or anything, but it's still pretty much framed. Like there's still drywall and everything that wasn't burned in the fire.
Yeah.
Right.
The rooms on the north side of that have been
Demolished.
hammered,
Yeah.
but that door frame where like the wood was thrown is still pretty intact considering.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Well,
don't know.
you know, like I was saying before, if you guys are not watching Utah Paranormal, you're really missing out, because some of the stuff that they catch is phenomenal stuff. And they'll be honest with you. Hey, we're debunking this, or well, here's what it looked like, but I don't think that's what it was. You guys are gonna be honest with your viewers of, and you know, I've had you come on to some of mine where I'm like, I'm not sure, maybe it's me, but I like with the Civil War soldier, it looked like a Civil War soldier during a lightning storm.
Mhm.
As the lightning crashed, it to me in the moment looked like something was walking up with, you know, a rifle. And you gave me some really good points to think about. You know what I mean? So for people watching you, I want them to understand that in your guys' head, you're trying to figure out, is this paranormal? Is this not paranormal? Can I explain it? Is there a way to explain it? Is
Right.
there a possibility that this is just, you know, one of those things where, you know, our mind works very weird sometimes. So we can perceive something that it may not be paranormal. That's
Well,
what
we
you
would be
get
doing
with your channel.
ourselves, not only ourselves, a disservice by not debunking and just automatically assuming something's paranormal, but we're also would be doing a disservice to people who are genuinely intrigued and wanting to see the legitimacy that's available out there. And
Right.
I just feel like I would be cheating people out of their time and
Well, not only
out
that,
of an
but the
experience.
excitement, I think, of proving it to ourselves as
Right.
well is
Right.
just
Yeah. Because it's not every day you get shit thrown.
right.
True.
I mean,
True. It's
and
not a common occurrence.
honestly, I can count on probably both hands witnessing throughout my entire life, witnessing things getting physically like moved with force.
Right. Right.
Now, I don't mean like stuff disappearing for a couple weeks and then ending up on the table where you know it hasn't been there for 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
I'm talking about directly in my line of sight, me staring at something and it actually is moved. So
Right.
like I said, it's not a common occurrence. So when something like that does happen, it's like, okay, I got to figure out if this is legit or not.
Right.
Right. And that's what I love about your page. Not only do you have great interactions, and the fact that you use communication devices like legitimate communications, SB7s, portal boxes, things like that. I love that about your channel, because that's my thing. I love a good EVP portal box communications just as much as I would love seeing a full body apparition. Like I would get just as excited over both. And I think what people are going to get with when they come watch you guys is stories being told. Not just what you get through the devices, but what you know of the location, what you know of the area. So I don't want to take up too much more of you guys' time, but I really encourage you guys to go, for those of you who are listening, go check out Utah Paranormal on all their platforms, because I think what you're going to get is legitimate investigations. You're going to get great communications. You're going to see some stuff that you don't ordinarily see.
Like
And
this.
I think part of that is because of Kyle and how he brings things through.
He's that bacon.
This
He's lighting up our house over here.
this happened during a live stream, and a viewer caught it. I didn't even see this until the replay.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen the Christmas trees.
Oh, yeah,
figure,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Right. So yeah, there was somebody manifesting
Look,
right there.
I don't know if it's a person. I don't know what the hell that thing
It's
is.
a very odd shape, right?
Got some chicken feet.
Well, it's got it's got chicken legs,
what look like
little
chicken
feet. I mean, it's got a full outline of a person with really long arms.
Right. So here's my I'm glad you actually are showing this, because I have seen that that photo, that video that you guys did put out about that. And I think because of where you guys are located, not a lot of people believe in elemental energy, right? Elemental entities.
Right.
And I think you draw that in as well because of the spirits that are there. Elemental entities, in my experience, tend to gravitate towards that because they're very interested. Is there anything? Is this okay to be happening here? Should I be concerned? Like they check you out, right?
There are
Right.
people investigating.
Right. So sometimes you might catch evidence, like as I have, where we found the 7-foot baby face looking thing. I think you have some elemental energy that kind of hangs out near your place and around, and they're more protectors, I believe. But
Well, and we're on Native American land.
Yeah.
right, yes, you are.
We're in the mountains, so
Yeah, we're at the base of a canyon. So
yeah, it's all the things that elementals surround,
Right.
our area. So
right by a copper mine, the rivers, everything. I think that
Right.
all-
I feel like they're definitely land protectors. I know that at least the ones that I've come in contact here on my property, we have a lot of acreage here in Mississippi. They're just here to make sure that people aren't doing what they shouldn't be doing.
Right.
They get a little upset when you're destroying stuff or you're trying to call in bad energy. They watch, they protect the land.
Yeah. Start forest fires.
Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that makes them very unhappy, and that's when you're really going to see them happen. But they do come and check and watch you. So that was my opinion on that. I think that may be more of an elemental entity than an actual human spirit. That's my opinion. That may not be everybody's opinion, but
I definitely don't.
I
don't feel like it was human either.
Yeah.
Right. I that's just what I felt from it. This was not a bad thing.
Right.
I'm not saying elementals are bad. I'm just saying that they do come check on you. And sometimes we come across things we can't explain that are not human, but that doesn't mean that they're bad or anything.
Well, and the fact it was gravitated to the tree,
Right.
Like
Right.
the whole thing was just bizarre.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. You guys have some, to be honest with you, some of the weirdest stuff that happens to you guys that you don't see happening to a lot of people. I'm just to be honest with you. You seem to draw in some of the weirdest stuff.
We've had people at our house before, and things will happen, and Kyle and I won't even react to it, because it's so normal. And these people are like, "What the?"
They'll literally like want to leave. Like, I'm very uncomfortable right now.
It's normal.
Yeah, I don't like. I've never got the feeling that you have anything there that's necessarily malicious or anything like that, especially through your communications. But
you have a spunky little sassy
furnace
spirit, but I don't.
Right. Yeah, but nothing that's trying to overtly hurt you.
He's just a grumpy ass old man.
He just likes to talk shit like we all do.
Right.
He's very good.
You guys definitely catch some of the weirder stuff. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I see you guys, almost every time you guys post something, it's in the realm of really weird.
That's why we wanted to start sharing our experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
crazy.
glad you guys have.
Normal.
we're not crazy, right?
Right. Yeah, you
This
see,
is
you're
really
not. It's
happening.
just something about you guys that draws in that weird stuff. Like you guys get communications like I've not seen from many people. And I particularly enjoy it. I wanted to let you guys know that I do particularly enjoy. I don't always get to come to your lives because life is hectic trying to do this podcast and all that good stuff, but I do enjoy coming to your lives. When I watch you guys live, I always enjoy it. So
We appreciate you being there.
I just really want to tell people, look, if you want to see some legitimate stuff, you want to see some of the weird stuff, you want to see good communications happen and legitimate communications happen, check out Utah Paranormal because it's a really great page. If you don't, you're missing out. You're missing out on some truth, which I believe you guys bring to the table is truthful evidence that can be relied on. So I appreciate you guys very much for that. Like I said, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So for everybody listening, check out Utah Paranormal. You're going to get good stuff. Like you're going to be entertained with real paranormal.
Whether you want it or not.
Whether you want it or not, you're going to see some weird stuff.
Yeah. Or hear some of the most bizarre.
Right.
You'll get the good weird.
I can't even put a name on it. It's
Right.
just bizarre conversations with
Right.
these beings,
Right.
energies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So please go follow Utah Paranormal. You won't regret it. I promise you, you will not regret it. One of my favorite people on TikTok. You guys, like I said, some of it's hard to watch, but there's still that few out there that I have great respect for, you guys being one of them. So please get over there and see Utah Paranormal. Very good husband and wife couple who do the paranormal good stuff. Can't say enough about you guys. I appreciate what you do. And thank you guys so much for sitting around and listening to us yammer about all this weird stuff. We appreciate you. We appreciate you coming on to see Utah Paranormal, Des and Kyle. So if you will stick around for one more minute, you'll get all of my contact information in the outro. And like I said, if you're not following Utah Paranormal, you're a dumb son of a gun.
Yeah. We look forward to seeing you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Well, guys, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much. Hope to have you on maybe in the future. If you guys are willing, we would love to have you back to talk about some more topics.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we'll have more crazy stories by then too.
Oh God, yeah, I'm sure. I'm positive of that. But all right, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on. Listeners, give me one more minute of your time. You've already been here this long. Give me one more minute and everything will be right with the world. Love y'all. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the show. And remember, we want to hear from you. Do you have questions about the paranormal, about mediumship? Do you have a story of an experience you just can't explain? Well, do us a favor. Email us at paranormalscienceinvestigators@gmail.com. And your question or story may end up on the show. And if you'd like to see our video content, you can check us out on YouTube at paranormal_investigators or on TikTok with the same name. Or if you'd like to do Instagram, it's Josh_paranormal_investigators. Come check out our video content of actual paranormal investigations and our everyday content. Just look for the yellow PSI logo. Thank you again. We'll see you on the next episode. Love y'all. Bye-bye.